For a lot of brands, 2023 was a tough year, and the struggle to drive growth in a down market was amplified by working with performance teams that didn't prioritize the right metrics. That's why I'm so excited to introduce Add to Cart's performance marketing partner for 2024, Farsight. Farsight is in it for the long term with a mission to do growth for good, prioritizing integrity and sustained success. By working with their clients on a P&L level, focusing on profitability, they've been able to continue fueling growth in an economic downturn. As the saying goes, you are the company you keep, and Farsight has worked with some of the most genuine and high-growth businesses in Australia like Trademark, Black Milk, Outback Equipment, and Mocha. If you want a performance agency who actually care and are proven to deliver on their promises, make sure you check out the Farsight team at Farsight, that's Farsight with 2 I's.com, and book a call directly with the agency's director, Ben Somerville.
Welcome to The Checkout. We catch up with previous Add to Cart guests and ask them 5 quick questions to get to know them better and leave you with a little extra inspiration to get through your Friday. Here's your host, Bushy.
Today's checkout features Iain Calvert, consultant and trainer at Boom Ecommerce. Iain is an e-commerce consultant and trainer with 20 years experience. Originally from the UK, Iain now concentrates on the Australian market and helps Aussie brands do e-commerce better. Iain Calvert, welcome to The Checkout. Thank you for joining us. We learned so much from you on our main episode, everything from how to run a profitable e-commerce store through to measuring and calculating MER, starting your own freelancing business, buying, selling e-commerce businesses, where to pick up your 7-Eleven deliveries in Japan. We're here to learn a little bit more about you. I've got 5 quick questions.
Go, hit me.
Number 1, what's the weirdest thing that you've ever bought online?
E-commerce business.
We heard all about it. Do you reckon you'll buy another one soon?
I wouldn't say soon. I just want to get that one sort of like a little bit bigger. I'm pretty keen on helping other people do it because I still keep an eye and I've spot some really sort of interesting ones. I'm like, ooh, what's that? It's not as straightforward as buying like a Quiksilver t-shirt or something like that, but it's not far off. There's websites that sell them. It's like, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this. Yeah.
And we talked a lot about that in the main episode. Number 1 tip for people who are considering buying an e-commerce business from a platform like Flipper, apart from creating your own stamps, what would be your advice to people when they're going down that path?
Write a shopping list of what you're looking for and what you're not looking for, and don't fixate on a type of business. So, for example, I love surfing. I wasn't looking for a surf store.
Yeah.
I ended up buying like a lamp business.
I love lamp. Number 2, who is your favorite retailer?
So I had to give this one a little bit of thought, actually. But like when I thought about it hard enough, it's like Patagonia. They make me feel great. I like, to be honest, the online experience is pretty bad. Like it's certainly last time I used it, it's a bit sort of like unloved. But for me, the brand as a whole is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, classic brand marketing, right? You think it says something about you, but then actually when you really dig into it, they're really good quality clothes. Everything sort of like stacks up, and that beats any performance marketing or well-structured meta campaign or discount.
But you're absolutely right, is that their online experience is not up to scratch.
Certainly in Australia, right?
Not in Australia. I had a delivery over Christmas of a jacket and it arrived in 2 plastic bags, which were recyclable plastic bags, to give credit, but such an opportunity for a nice recycled cardboard box or something similar that aligns with their values a little bit more.
Yeah, I think my guess would be, and sorry if the person that's responsible for it is listening to this,
yes,
that is probably the poor cousin.
Yes, exactly.
Or they're sort of like an under sort of like resource. But again, no, we still buy it.
Yeah, and not everyone gets everything perfect. And I think it's a good lesson for everyone is that Patagonia constantly gets brought up as favorite retailers. They're not perfect. No one is. So you've got to pick your battles. Number 3, which e-commerce practice do you wish was history?
Instant pop-up saying, do you want 10% off before the rest of the site's even loaded? Yes, it's good for collecting email addresses, but just let me walk in the door and have a look around first before we sort of like start getting into all of like, yeah.
In your opinion, best trigger point to make a pop-up offer?
I think you're looking for they're engaged in some way, shape or form. So it might be time on page. It might be how far they've scrolled down. It might be clicked on multiple sort of like pages. Essentially, they've shown some type of intention where it would justify having that sort of like pop-up. I think what happens is everybody sees other people doing it, so they then do it. And also I think it's just installed and people don't know how to sort of like control it, basically. I think it is as simple as that.
Yeah, and once you start seeing results, it's hard to turn it off, right?
Yeah, sorry, it's like discounting.
Any result.
It's like discounting, right? Like you discount, you make loads of sales, but if you keep discounting, it's just like a vicious circle.
Yeah. Number 4, can you recommend a book or a podcast that our listeners should immediately get into?
I can. So for me, the key to e-commerce success is essentially having a very strong brand. And the problem is the term brand is very misunderstood. On a basic level, people will think it's like logos and colours, whereas actually a brand is everything that a business does. And there's an amazing book called All Marketers Are Liars by Seth Godin that explains it in such a good way. It literally changed the way that I saw the world.
Awesome.
I was like, oh, that's why that happens. Written years ago and just so good. And you mentioned in the main show about sort of, rereading sort of books rather than, hey, I read 54 books this year and I didn't apply anything. That for me is one that I go back to all the time when I'm traveling. It just is like, it's amazing. It is my most recommended book.
I'm going to have to go back to that.
It's good.
Last question I have for you. Finish this sentence. The future of retail is?
A really good combination of the online experience and the physical experience. And so I know we can like Geekland, we call that like omni-channel or what have you, but I think that's just the mechanics, right? Whereas I think when e-commerce first came back, it'd be like death of the high street. It's all going to be online. That's clearly not the case, right? And even through COVID, obviously everybody's buying online because they can't go to stores, but people like going to stores and having that experience. And I think that it's very difficult for pure D2C businesses to do really well. And I think there's a combination of channels that need to happen. And the ones that I see that do best is they provide some type of experience in store. Is then replicated online, but not replicated like, when you got those, when websites first came about and they were replicating brochures. So you would get the flash websites and the page would sort of like turn. You're like, that's not helping anybody, right? It's kind of doing it in a way that works sort of like online and just it's basically making people feel good. Like we talked about Patagonia before. Like I felt good when I bought. I got a bit annoyed when it sort of like turned up in plastic bags and sort of like stuff like that. That's not the new shiny thing, but I think it is the way forward for businesses to improve their profitability or become profitable.
Well put. Iain, thank you for joining us on the checkout.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To hear more from Iain, jump back into episode 378, where Iain shares his nifty P&L hack for working out which areas of your business you should focus on. He also gets real about Google attribution, and we hear his carefully curated shopping list for buying an e-commerce business.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep adding to cart.